Of the 9 nations of North America, and the ones we'll discuss in this course, the easiest of them all to define would be Quebec. Why? Because it's its own province. It's its own defined boundary already. And just a perspective, here's Indiana, and this is Quebec. So it's a very, very large particular province of Canada. But we have the Gulf of St. Lawrence and the St. Lawrence River, which is very important to understanding where most people live in Quebec. First off, we have these islands, which are very lightly populated, and the Peninsula, the Gaspé, if I was speaking French, Peninsula, which here is an extension of the Appalachian Mountains, which is a part of Quebec. A lot of people don't realize that on this side of the St. Lawrence River is also Quebec, and it borders up against with Maine and Vermont in the United States, along with New Brunswick, which is a province of Canada. Going further, we have Quebec City and Montreal, the two urban areas in which most of the people in Quebec live, somewhere in this particular area through here. Over here, this is called the Eastern Townships, or the Estrie, E-S-T-R-I-E, part of Quebec, and comprised together, you got this peninsula and the Eastern Townships and Quebec City, Montreal, this particular area. We refer to that as Southern Quebec. Pretty much the rest of Quebec is referred to as Northern Quebec. And so it's not particularly a situation where it's, well, right down the middle is the halfway point. Down here is Southern, there's Northern. Whenever I refer to Southern Quebec, I'm really referring to just this particular area through here. We also have Ottawa. Ottawa is not in Quebec, but is the capital of Canada, and it just borders. It's right here, it borders Quebec, and so you have some spillover here in terms of some suburbanization that comes into Quebec. As we cruise on up the western edge of Quebec, we have Eastern Ontario, which definitely spills over because straight line on a map, it's not going to separate people. It's just an arbitrary geometric line. And so you do have some overlap here between the English-speaking part and the French-speaking part of Canada. Get up a little farther, this is the James Bay, which is a part of the bigger, broader Hudson Bay, we see here. And so here we're going to find more of the First Nations that are living here. Also, we have some of the hydroelectric projects and dams, and the 9 Nations text of the La Grande Rivière, the Grand River, is in this particular area of Quebec. You get up in the northern part of Quebec, there ain't much here, and so subsequently not much of a population. The populations are scattered in very remote areas along the coastline. And so you can see by the place names, very hard to pronounce. I'm not even going to try to pronounce them, but this is indigenous groups that inhabit much of this very sparsely populated northern area. You have over here Newfoundland and Labrador, another one of the Canadian provinces. This one is a little bit more English speaking, does have some overlap here along the borders. Once again, borders don't do a good job always of defining on one side a particular culture, on the other side a different culture. And once again, we have another straight, arbitrary drawn line through here. So here is essentially a quick tour of Quebec, and differentiating between northern Quebec and southern Quebec. Also going forward, I'm going to use the term Quebecers and Quebecois. So this is just different terms to refer to people from Quebec. Now, I was always under the impression that Quebecers was anybody from Quebec, and Quebecois was more of the French-speaking Canadians. But as I've done some research preparing for this chapter, it's actually, those terms are used interchangeably. So Quebecers and Quebecois essentially mean the same thing.